Before the headlines, before the rockets, before the numbers that look unreal on a screen, there was a boy who learned very early that the world could be cruel, quiet, and indifferent all at once. Elon Musk did not grow up dreaming of applause. He grew up learning how to disappear. In South Africa, he was smaller, quieter, always somewhere else in his head. Books became refuge. Science fiction became shelter. Ideas became safer than people. School was not a place of growth for him. It was a place of survival. He was bullied relentlessly, not teased, not mocked lightly, beaten until his face swelled, thrown downstairs, hospitalized after one attack that left him unconscious. When adults asked what happened, the answers never seemed to matter. Pain, when repeated enough, stops being shocking. It becomes routine. At home, things were not simpler. His parents divorced. The environment was tense, emotionally sharp, intellectually demanding. Affection was scarce. Expectations were heavy. Elon learned something that would follow him for life. If you want relief, don't ask for it. Build an inner world where you don't need it. So he retreated further into thought. While other kids played, he calculated. While they laughed, he imagined systems. While they connected, he detached. This wasn't confidence. It was defense. By the time he was a teenager, he had already decided that Earth felt too small, too limiting, too flawed. Not because he was arrogant, because he was desperate for meaning that didn't hurt. At 12 years old, he taught himself programming, not as a hobby, as an escape. He sold his first game for a few $100s, a small win, unnoticed by most. But to him, it was proof. The world might reject you socially, but it will accept value. That belief hardened. Soon after, he left South Africa alone. No safety net, no certainty. Just a quiet conviction that staying would suffocate him. Canada was a waypoint, not a destination. The United States was the real target, not for fame, for access. Access to ideas, access to capital, access to a future that felt larger than his past. But relocation did not fix him. Loneliness traveled well. At university, he was still distant, still awkward, still intense in a way that unsettled people. He slept on floors, ate cheaply, ignored comfort, not out of discipline, out of indifference to his own body. This is where the myth usually starts to form. The genius, the prodigy, the chosen one. But the truth is less flattering. Elon was not chasing success. He was running from emptiness, and running that long shapes you. He did not learn balance. He learned obsession. He did not learn collaboration. He learned control, because control felt like safety, and safety had been missing for too long. That mindset carried him into his first ventures. Zip to long hours, no patience for inefficiency, no tolerance for disagreement. People around him noticed the intensity. Some admired it, many feared it. He could be brilliant one moment, cutting the next, focused beyond reason, unmoved by exhaustion. This was not charisma, it was compulsion. When Zip2 sold, the money arrived before the healing, and that is a dangerous order, because wealth amplifies what is already there. It does not soften it. Elon moved on immediately. XCOM, then PayPal. Again, conflict followed him. Not because he lacked vision, because vision without emotional insulation burns everyone nearby. Boards clashed with him. Partners pushed back. Eventually, he was removed from leadership. Another rejection. But this one was different. He had money now, enough to rest, enough to disappear. He didn't. Instead, he doubled down, as if stopping would force him to face something he had been outrunning since childhood. And that decision led him toward the edge, toward ideas so large that failure would be public, humiliating, and potentially total. Rockets, electric cars, energy, not incremental bets, existential ones. This is where the story turns darker, because when obsession meets scale, the cost is no longer personal. It spreads. When Elon stepped into industries that had already broken stronger men, he did not do it with humility. He did it with defiance. Aerospace was not waiting for a newcomer. Automotive manufacturing was not open to disruption by outsiders. Energy was dominated by entrenched systems that crushed naivete quickly. Elon walked in anyway, not because he underestimated the difficulty, because he believed that enduring pain was normal. SpaceX was not born in optimism. It was born in stubborn disbelief that the world should remain the way it was. He surrounded himself with engineers who were brilliant, exhausted, and replaceable in his mind. Deadlines were sacred. Sleep was optional. Burnout was interpreted as weakness. People mistook this for vision. But inside Elon's head, pressure felt familiar. He had lived under it his entire life. The first rockets failed, spectacularly. Explosions, missed targets, public ridicule. Each failure erased millions of dollars and years of effort in seconds. By the third failure, most rational leaders would have stopped. Elon did not. Not because he was fearless, because stopping meant confronting the possibility that the suffering had been pointless. That was unacceptable. At the same time, Tesla was bleeding. Manufacturing problems stacked up, cash reserves evaporated. Investors panicked. Both companies were weeks away from collapse. This is the part people romanticize. They say he bet everything. They say he believed when no one else did. What they leave out is how close he came to breaking. He slept on factory floors, snapped at employees, carried stress so constant that his body no longer distinguished urgency from existence. Depression returned quietly. Not the dramatic kind, the grinding, functional kind. The kind where you work 120 hours a week because slowing down feels worse. There were nights he admits he questioned whether any of it was worth it. Not publicly then, privately, in moments without cameras. And still, he pushed. The fourth SpaceX launch was the last chance. If it failed, the company would die. If Tesla didn't secure funding, it would follow. Two companies, one exhausted founder, one thin margin between legend and collapse. The rocket succeeded, barely. The relief did not bring peace. It brought momentum. Suddenly, SpaceX was credible. NASA contracts arrived. Tesla survived. From the outside, this looked like triumph. From the inside, it reinforced a dangerous lesson. If you suffer enough, eventually you win. That belief became his operating system. It justified cruelty. It excused instability. It framed emotional damage as collateral. As Tesla scaled, so did the pressure. Factories became war zones of efficiency. Mistakes were punished publicly. Fear became a management tool. Some employees thrived, many broke. Elon did not see the difference as his responsibility. He saw survival as proof of worth. His relationships suffered, marriages strained, parenthood became complicated, presence was inconsistent. The same intensity that built companies made intimacy difficult, because intimacy requires slowing down, and slowing down felt unsafe. Publicly, he became a symbol. Privately, he remained unsettled. He used social media like a pressure valve, provocative statements, sudden decisions, unfiltered impulses. Markets reacted, people argued. But underneath the noise was something simpler. A man still negotiating with the pain that shaped him. The world began treating him as unstoppable. He did not feel that way. He felt necessary. And necessity can be a prison. As the companies grew, the margin for error shrank, but the tolerance for chaos did not. Success did not calm Elon. It sharpened him. Every win raised the stakes. Every headline fed the expectation that he would do the impossible again. And expectations, once internalized, become demands. Tesla was no longer a scrappy experiment. It was a global symbol, a political target, a cultural lightning rod. Inside, the pressure intensified. Production targets were announced before systems were ready. Engineers were asked to bend physics, schedules, and their own health at the same time. When reality resisted, anger filled the gap. Elon's leadership style became more visible and more divisive. He could be inspiring in one meeting, devastating in the next. Praise was rare, criticism was public. Silence meant you were safe for now. This wasn't strategy, it was instinct. Control still felt like protection. Outside the factory walls, his public persona evolved. Tweets moved markets, jokes triggered investigations, impulses became policy. What once felt like authenticity began to look like volatility, and volatility at scale is not harmless. Regulators circled, boards worried, investors held their breath. Elon seemed unbothered. But those close to him noticed something else. Exhaustion without rest, focus without recovery, intensity without release. Mental health is not something you outgrow by becoming powerful. If anything, power removes the guardrails. Elon spoke openly at times about depression, about crushing lows that arrived without warning, about work being the only thing that kept the darkness at bay. That admission explained a lot. If work is the medicine, you never stop taking it, even when it poisons the rest of your life. Personal relationships continued to fray. Time was scarce. Attention was fragmented. Emotional availability competed with global crises. Children grew while rockets launched. Moments were missed in exchange for milestones. This is the trade no one can measure from the outside. The world applauds the outcome. The family lives with the process. Then came the acquisitions, the provocations, the escalating conflicts, buying platforms, picking fights, challenging institutions publicly. Some saw courage, others saw compulsion. Both were partly right. Elon had always challenged authority, but now authority answered back. Every move was scrutinized, every word dissected, every contradiction amplified. And still, he did not slow down, because slowing down would mean listening, and listening would mean confronting the unresolved parts of himself that had been screaming since childhood. The boy who learned to endure pain by escaping into ideas had become a man who built worlds to avoid sitting still. Mars was not just a destination, it was a distraction, a future far enough away to justify present suffering. And yet even vision cannot outrun consequence forever. The toll began to show, in lawsuits, in resignations, in public backlash, in moments where brilliance blurred into recklessness. This is the part of the story that rarely fits into inspiration, because it asks an uncomfortable question. What if obsession works, but costs more than it gives? Elon Musk changed industries. He accelerated timelines. He forced the world to move. But he also demonstrated something else, that unresolved pain, when paired with power, does not disappear. It scales. Eventually, even momentum runs into gravity. For Elon, that gravity arrived not as a single collapse, but as accumulation. Too many decisions made at speed. Too many battles chosen without rest. Too many nights where sleep was postponed in the name of urgency. The body keeps count, even when the mind refuses to. There were moments when he admitted, sometimes indirectly, sometimes with surprising honesty, that the pressure was crushing, that the responsibility felt unbearable, that the loneliness at the top was not a metaphor, but a daily condition. Power had insulated him from limits, but it had also isolated him from correction. People around him became careful. Some stopped challenging him, others left. And silence, when it replaces disagreement, is dangerous, because it allows instincts to harden into habits. The world watched him make moves that felt impulsive, statements that landed heavier than intended, decisions that rippled through employees, markets, and cultures. To outsiders, it looked like confidence. Inside, it looked more like compulsion, the need to act, the inability to pause, the fear that if he stopped moving, something inside him would catch up. He had built companies that demanded constant attention. He had built a public identity that required constant performance. There was no quiet place left. And that was the irony. The boy who escaped pain by disappearing into ideas had created a life where disappearance was impossible. Every weakness became content. Every struggle became speculation. Every misstep became permanent. Mental health does not improve under a microscope. At times, Elon pushed back against the criticism with humor, at times with aggression, at times with silence. None of it solved the underlying tension, because the real conflict was not with the world, it was with himself. He had proven that obsession could move mountains. He had not proven that it could sustain a life. And slowly, questions emerged that technology could not answer. What does balance look like when your identity is fused with output? What does rest mean when stillness feels unsafe? What does healing require when pain has been your fuel? These are not questions founders are trained to ask. They are questions survivors eventually face. Elon did not suddenly become calm. He did not retreat into wisdom. He did not transform overnight. Change for someone like him was never going to be dramatic. It was going to be incremental, uneven, incomplete. Moments of reflection appeared between bursts of intensity. Acknowledgement surfaced, then vanished. Growth happened, then stalled. And that may be the most honest part of his story. Not redemption, not downfall. Continuation. A man still wrestling with the same forces that shaped him, only now on a stage too large to hide from himself. The world often asks whether Elon Musk is a hero or a villain. That question misses the point. He is a case study in what happens when brilliance grows faster than healing, in what happens when childhood wounds are rewarded instead of resolved, in what happens when obsession is mistaken for destiny. His achievements are real, so is the damage along the way. Both exist at the same time. And perhaps the final lesson is not about rockets or cars or markets. It is this: you can change the future without ever making peace with the past. But the cost does not disappear, it waits. At some point, building stops being the question. Meaning takes its place. For Elon, that transition was not clean, and it was not comfortable. It arrived in fragments, in rare moments when the noise dipped just enough for reflection to slip through. He had already achieved what most people would consider impossible, multiple times, in parallel. Yet satisfaction remained elusive, because achievement answers external doubt, not internal unrest. The missions were still there: Mars, sustainable energy, humanity's survival. They were not excuses, they were sincere. But sincerity does not cancel exhaustion. There were periods when he admitted that the pressure felt constant, that joy came in flashes rather than stretches, that peace was something he understood intellectually but rarely experienced emotionally. This is the hidden cost of being necessary. When the world believes it cannot move forward without you, you stop believing you are allowed to step back. Elon's sense of responsibility was enormous. So was the weight of expectation he placed on himself. Failure, even minor, felt catastrophic. Criticism felt personal. Delay felt dangerous. That intensity had once saved him. Now it boxed him in. He began to talk more openly than before about the toll, about the strain, about the loneliness, not as confession, as acknowledgement. There was no dramatic reckoning, no public turning point, just a gradual awareness that endurance alone is not a strategy for a lifetime. The same obsession that built companies could also erode the person inside them. He experimented, imperfectly, with delegation, with distance, with letting others lead pieces of what he once controlled entirely. It did not come naturally. It did not always last, but it mattered. Because growth, for someone wired like him, was never about adding skills. It was about subtracting armor, letting go of the belief that worth equals output, letting go of the reflex to equate rest with weakness, letting go of the idea that pain is proof of importance. Those beliefs had kept him alive once. They did not have to define him forever. The public will likely always debate him in extremes: genius or menace, visionary or tyrant. That conversation will continue long after his active years end. But beneath the narratives is a quieter truth. Elon Musk is not a symbol. He is a human being shaped by early pain, extraordinary ability, relentless drive, and unresolved inner conflict. His story is not clean, it is not reassuring, it is not easily packaged, and that is precisely why it matters, because it reminds us that progress does not require wholeness. But wholeness requires more than progress. You can push the world and still be catching up to yourself. And perhaps the most difficult journey is not to Mars, but inward, toward a version of yourself that no longer needs to run. In the end, every story like this stops belonging to the person at its center. It becomes a mirror. Elon's life, when you strip away the logos and launch pads, is not just about innovation. It is about what happens when pain becomes productive. That is uncomfortable to admit, because society rewards results, not healing. It celebrates output, not inner balance. It calls obsession drive when it produces value, and instability only when it disrupts comfort. Elon learned early that being different made him a target. Later, being different made him indispensable. The world did not ask him to soften. It asked him to deliver. So he did. Again and again. And each time he delivered, the incentive to slow down disappeared a little more. This is the trap. When your wounds make you useful, no one rushes to help you close them. They clap instead. They invest. They follow. They demand more. From the outside, it looks like destiny. From the inside, it feels like obligation. Elon's story forces a question most people avoid. What parts of ourselves are we feeding because they work, even if they hurt? How often do we confuse endurance with virtue? How often do we mistake pressure for purpose? You do not need to be a billionaire to fall into this pattern. You only need to be praised for surviving something you were never meant to endure forever. The dark side of obsession is not failure. It is success that arrives without resolution. Elon Musk will likely continue building, creating, provoking. That is who he is. But whether he ever finds peace is a question no company can answer. And that uncertainty is not a flaw in the story. It is the lesson, because the goal is not to avoid intensity. It is to understand why you need it. The goal is not to eliminate ambition. It is to make sure ambition is not the only place you feel alive. If there is one thing his journey offers to anyone listening now, it is this: you can be extraordinary and still be unfinished. You can change the world and still be learning how to live in it. And the bravest work you will ever do may not be visible, measurable, or applauded. It may happen quietly, far from deadlines and expectations, in moments where you choose not to run. That choice does not make headlines, but it determines whether success becomes a home or just another place you pass through at full speed. This is where EP 28 ends, not with an answer, but with an invitation to look honestly at what drives you, to ask what it costs, and to decide consciously what kind of life you are actually building.